In this video, we are going to learn about controlled components in React. So in the last one, we saw an uncontrolled component where actually we are not directly able to control a particular input element. So for example, here we can see that whatever is the value inside this particular input element, that is nowhere available inside this component, and that's why we can't do anything with that, right? Let's say we want to do some modifications on this before means whenever it is visible, it should be visible, user is inputting, but I want to have more control over it. So I want to track it in some my own state rather than internally inside DOM. So first thing we are going to do is that we no more need this ref. Okay, so this thing will not be needed. Okay, we'll come back to it. For now, let's comment it. Second thing is that default value is specific only to uncontrolled components. In controlled components, we don't use default value. Okay, so this has to be removed. Rather, we use a property called value. Okay, and this is like, this might you remember, this is like similar to HTML only, right? Now in value, whatever we give, so let's say in value I give I don't know, like let's say QWERTY or anything. Okay, so whatever you write, it will come here, but you see that there is a warning which is coming that in a controlled component you should always have something called on change. So this on change is necessary. Okay, so first of all you should have value, and then if you are having value you should also have on change. Now what is this on change? On change is like on submit, it is also a event handler where this thing will be called whenever anything in this input is you are trying to change. Whenever user inputs something, that thing whatever you are going to change, that is this thing. Okay, so firstly write this. So let's say I create a function called handle change. Okay, and in this handle change, I will use this. Okay, now what will happen is that you can see that what is printed. So event is printed, event is being passed obviously, and then we can print this event. So you can see when you run this, that first thing you will observe that this warning is gone, that is fine. Second thing you will observe that I have hard coded this value with this value. Okay, now if I type anything, so let's say I type A, then you can see that this event is printed. That is the first thing you see, because because whenever I type A, then anytime I change something, then this function is called, and that's why that event, some event is triggered, and that is written here, right? But more importantly, you see that nothing has changed here. I am typing A, B, C, whatever, but here it is not changing. Why? Because we have given a static value of thing inside this. That is the problem. Okay, so what we have to is that firstly, whenever something is changing, we have to extract the actual value which the user is intending to type. Here we can write event dot target dot value, and then let's say I'm typing D, then you can see that this thing is coming. When I'm typing A, then you can see that this A. So whatever I'm writing, right? So A, B, C, D, if whatever I'm typing, it is coming, but here nothing is changing. So you can see what is happening, that React is telling us that what user has written. So let's say rather than here, I go and after Q I write something. Let's say after Q I write X. Then you can see that after Q I wrote X, then React knew that something like this user is intending to type, but here nothing has changed because my value is fixed. That is creating again and again the problem, right? So this is not like default value where whatever the value is there, it is only used for the first time. Rather, in case of controlled components, whatever the value is there, that is the actual real value at any point of time which is stored which is basically stored for this particular input element, and that we are going to control it from React, and that's why we should have our own state variable tracking that. So what happens that in React you do something like this, that in case of controlled component you have your own state, and in that state object somewhere like name, and let's initialize it with just this thing, whatever input, let's say it is empty string right now. Okay, now what we want is that rather than a particular fixed value, we need to use that thing, this dot state dot name. Okay, and now this dot state dot name, you can see that this is empty. Okay, because it is initialized with empty. If it is initialized with some gibberish, then you can see that it is initialized with that thing. So obviously we simply want empty. We will later initialize it with this props dot name, but we'll see that soon. So right now this is fine. Now let's say I'm typing A, B, C, anything. So you can see that I'm typing A, B, C, and clearly here it is printing, but here again I am not able to see anything, and that is essentially exactly because of same reason which was earlier happening. This dot state dot name is still empty string, so why should it change, right? Whatever is this value, whatever you are passing as the value, that is the final value of input, even if you try to change something. So what we have to do is we have to do something like this. We have to do something like this dot set state, and inside that set state we have to set our name to a new value, which is actually this value. So this is what it is going to happen. So whenever you are changing changing something, and whatever is the new value, change it to the new value, and that value should be now the final value of the input element. Okay, so you can see that right now whatever I type, that is clearly being visible here. Okay, so now you might be thinking that, yeah, so what is the whole point of doing this? Yeah, means I am earlier also using ref, whatever I was typing, that was happening here, right? And now also whatever I'm typing, that is also coming here. So what is the difference? The difference is that now you have this handle change, and whatever you want to do, you can do with respect to the user input. Okay, so let's say you do something like this: const new name is equal to this thing, or for that matter you can simply write name also, because that anyways that should be fine, because then we can use the shortcut version. So you can see that this thing is I'm just assigning it a new variable. Why I did that? Because let's say now I can do something on this. So I can do something like, let's say, to uppercase. Then if I call this function, then whatever is the value, that will be converted to uppercase, and then it will be assigned to the set state, which means that you can see that even if I am writing small ASD, what is being written, it is capital ASD. Okay, so you can clearly see that, let's say we don't want to initialize with empty string. Let's say we are initializing with props dot name. Okay, so props dot name, we are initializing with that, and you can see that this Alex is coming, but and after that whatever I'm typing, that also is like smaller case, means not smaller case, whatever I'm writing, whether it is small or big, whatever that thing is coming. But let's now change this to this, and then we'll see that, yeah, so what is happening is that initially we have to set this thing here also, right? Because right now as soon as I type something, so let's say Z I type, then everything is capital, but initially at the first render it is still small, because I should do that same thing here also. just for the sake of it, because to make the consistent behavior. Now you can see that this is something like this, and after that doesn't matter what you type, even if you write all small letters, whatever small letters, that is becoming capital. But still, and let's say we want to do some more modification. Let's say if I write let's say 1 2 3 4, I don't want to do something like this, right? If I am writing any number, that should not be there in that in here, right? And for this what we are doing is that you can see that whatever logic we are writing, okay, this logic is duplicated. You can see here also it is duplicated, here also it is duplicated, right? So what we can do is that we can create a separate function, something like, let's say I don't know, like filter name, just any name you can give, but just I'm giving this name. And what you can do is that you can pass name and you can return any new thing. So for example, in this case you will return something like this, okay. And then rather than using this, you can use something like this, and now it is consistent, right? Just you have to use this dot filter name wherever you want to use this thing. So again the same thing you can do here also. So this dot filter name, and then you can use event dot target dot value here. Now this thing is not needed, and straight away do something like this. So whatever the input value is actually the current value, user input, you are filtering that, and after filtering whatever you are doing here, that same thing is happening here, right? So you can see that right now also the same behavior is there, whatever you're typing, that is capitalized. But now let's say I want to go a bit further. I'm trying to let's say I want to have something like this. So let's say apart from uppercase, I also want to let's say replace all the numbers. So again, let's say I can replace all the numbers, which means that digits, one or more, globally I want to replace it with empty string. Okay, so now you can see that even if I write 1 2 3, I'm writing, but you cannot see. If non-characters I'm writing, then it is fine. If I'm writing any 1 2 3, it is not being written, and that you can check directly from here also. Let's say instead the first name is not Alex, rather Alex99, then you can see clearly that here Alex99 is coming, but here capitalized Alex99 is not coming. Alex99 is capitalized, and after that all the digits are removed, okay, and that's why only Alex is coming here, okay. And for that matter, anything if you type, that also, all the numbers you type, that also, again you can see that, let's say something like this, where you are printing this thing. Let's do something like this. Let's make it something like this. So name, and then after that let's say like this, and in between that I'm printing something like this, you see. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to show between this right arrow and left arrow that what is the actual value. So you can see that Alex, and then let's say I don't know, Bob, and then I put space and then submit. Okay, this dot current, okay, so this dot input, yeah, obviously, so this is not the way. You have to use this dot state dot okay, so this is actually the entire input value is now controlled by this variable, right? And that's why that is all which is going to be, right? So you can print this Alex, you can print Alex space, and you can see that this Alex space is coming. This is bad, right? This is bad. Like if you are printing some space, that space is coming. Again, you can have a control over it. What you can do is that here you can simply write dot trim, and then after that even if you try to put some space, you see I'm trying to put space, so in between space is allowed, but here at the end space is not allowed. You can see automatically, means not even, it is not even coming in, even if you are trying to put space, it is not even coming in input field. And again, if you are trying to have multiple spaces here, then you can see that it is allowed. Again, you can control that also, right? You can say you can say here that not only you replace that, but rather let's say something like this. If space is multiple space, then okay, I don't have to replace it with one. I have to replace it with one space rather than zero space. So yeah, so better to do it like separately. That is fine. So what we will do is that we will have two replaces. Okay, one replace is replacing digits. Second replace is, let's say, replacing space. Okay, and yeah, rather than, if multiple spaces are there, I will just replace it with one space. And anyways, so you can understand that whatever so you can see that one or more yeah, so one or more spaces are replaced with one space. So you can see that Alex, Bob, anything I write, one space I write, it's fine. If two space I try to write, then I'm not able to write two spaces. You can see. So now you can understand that infinite benefits which you can get if the thing is when the any particular input thing is controlled. And again, it can be any type of input. It does not mean that it has to be input element. Like it can be select element also, which is also a form of input element, right? So the point is that all these extra code, you can understand, like this code is extra, or handling is extra. So if you need that sort of control, then you can have it. Otherwise, if plain and simple whatever is being written, and that is only you want to take care of it, so that is fine. If you don't want to modify things and have a control over it, then you can go get away with uncontrolled components also. But in this case, I just showed you that sometimes how controlled components can be useful. And again, whatever we did, that we did with class-based components, right? Exactly the same thing we could do with functional component also, right? So here, instead of greeting2, let's use greeting, which is functional component. And then what we are going to do, so we are back in this business where it was uncontrolled. So we don't want to have these sort of things. What we want is that we want to have something like this. Okay, so let's copy paste. Rather than state.name, we will simply have a state variable called name, and we will use it here. So let's say, and again, ref is not needed. Ref is not needed at all. We'll simply use name as a state variable. So it will be name and set name, and it will be a use state with let's say, yeah, initial variable, let's say props dot name. That should be fine. And again, let's change these things. We don't want so anyways, handle submit, yeah, okay, so I think I did not change it here. But anyways, we are not so here uh, what happens that we'll need to have simple, we can print whatever the current name is there, so that is fine. Okay, and apart from that, we will do our own handle change, which we can copy from here. Yeah, we can copy from here. Apart from that, we also need the same thing, filter name, with the only difference that filter name will also be used at multiple places whenever we need. So for example, in use state also, rather than using it directly, we will use this filter name. and filter name was defined before it is used. So yeah, you can do multiple things. First thing, you can move it above, or second thing you can do it is, rather than this, you can do something like this. You can use the function keyword, right? So we know that functional function declared like this are hoisted, right? So even if you don't write it above, it will be hoisted and it will be used. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is that this filter name you have to use here also, and here it will be not this dot filter name, it will be simply filter name. Okay, apart from that, we don't want to use something like this because this dot set state is not available. Rather, we will use something called set name, and in that we can directly set whatever the value we want to set. Okay, yeah, so that should be all. Let's see, starting with Alex. Let's say Bob. I'm putting, let's say, additional spaces. It is not working, that is the first thing. And any type of number you are writing, it is not working. Yeah, so now, and if you print submit, then Alex Bob, that is being printed. Yeah, so all in all, you can see that this thing pretty much works in a exactly a similar manner. Okay, so now you have a fair idea that what is controlled component, what is uncontrolled component, and what are the pros and cons of both of them. Means not pros and cons, it's just you have to measure what thing you need at what place. If you need more control, then you can go ahead with controlled components. Otherwise, uncontrolled components is also fine. So yeah, that should be all for this one. See you in the next one.